Welcome to the show. I'm Nicoletta, and this is the podcast where we dive deep into movies, whether they're timeless classics or modern gems. If it made you feel something, we're talking about it.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a story of human ingenuity really pushed to its absolute limit. Apollo 13.
That's right.
We'll explore the harrowing real-life mission and Ron Howard's unforgettable 1995 film that brought this successful failure to the big screen. We want to uncover the genius and, frankly, the sheer grit behind it all.
It's such a compelling journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
It truly encapsulates the essence of resilience and just unparalleled problem solving under the most extreme pressure imaginable.
Yeah.
So our mission today, if you will, is to unpack that incredible true story of Apollo 13. We'll look at how meticulously the film recreated that nail-biting experience. We'll explore the groundbreaking cinematic techniques they used that really immersed audiences, and maybe understand why this story still resonates, decades later.
Definitely.
We'll be pulling out those nuggets of insight about the quiet heroism of ground control and just that unwavering human spirit.
It's a story that gave us one of the most iconic lines in film history, maybe even in just history generally. Houston, we have a problem.
Instantly recognizable.
A line that just perfectly captures the terrifying stakes. 3 astronauts stranded over 200,000 miles from Earth, facing, overwhelming odds.
Absolutely.
So let's unpack this journey, starting from the real-life crisis and moving through to its cinematic triumph.
Sounds great. Where do we begin? The mission itself.
Let's start right at the beginning, yeah. The actual mission of Apollo 13. Now, this was originally set to be the 3rd lunar landing attempt.
Right, following Apollo 11 and 12.
Exactly. Following those triumphant successes, the crew was a really interesting mix. You had Commander Jim Lovell, a seasoned astronaut, already flown Gemini, Apollo 8.
He'd been to the moon's vicinity before on Apollo 8.
Right, making him the first person to journey to the moon twice, essentially. Then Fred Hayes, lunar module pilot on his first spaceflight.
Rookie, yeah.
And command module pilot Jack Swigert. Now, what's often overlooked, but became, crucially significant later, Swigert was actually a very late replacement.
That's a key detail. He wasn't the original CMP.
No, he was brought in just days before launch, stepped in for Ken Mattingly, who got grounded because he'd been exposed to measles.
Right, the measles scare.
Yeah.
That last-minute change, while it seemed maybe minor at the time, it really introduces this subtle layer of initial tension, maybe even uncertainty within the crew dynamic,
Yeah, you have to wonder.
And consider the context. This is 1970. The space race. Well, space travel, while obviously still incredibly perilous, was starting to feel almost routine in the public eye.
After Armstrong walked on the moon.
Exactly. After Apollo 11's giant leap and Apollo 12's really precise landing, there was this sense, maybe a dangerous sense, that NASA had kind of mastered lunar missions.
Complacency setting in a bit.
Maybe. Public interest, frankly, was beginning to wane. A lot of Americans just expected Apollo 13 to be another successful landing. Sort of been there, done that.
Which, in hindsight, is incredible.
It really is. And that perception of routine, it made what was about to happen even more shocking and ultimately more dramatic.
Yeah.
It totally set the stage for this unexpected crisis that would redefine what success even meant in space exploration.
Yeah, it shifted the goalposts completely.
Completely. It went from reaching a destination to simply surviving an absolutely unprecedented ordeal.
But as history famously tells us, this mission turned out to be, anything but routine. Just 56 hours into the flight.
Barely 2.5 days in.
Yeah. April 13th, 1970, a date that feels tragically ironic now, and they're about 200,000 miles from Earth. Suddenly, catastrophe strikes.
The bang.
Exactly. A sudden violent rupture. An oxygen tank explodes in the service module. And this wasn't like a slow leak they could manage.
No, this was instantaneous. Devastating failure.
The immediate impact was just profound. A critical loss of oxygen, obviously, a significant drain on electrical power, and a severe limitation on their water supply.
Everything they needed to survive.
Basically, yeah. The command module, which they called Odyssey, that was their main living space, their control center, and crucially, the only part designed to get them back through Earth's atmosphere.
The part with the heat shield.
Right. It was effectively crippled. Dead in the water, almost.
And the sequence of events that led to that explosion?
Yeah.
It's just a chilling case study in cascading failures. How small things can compound.
So it wasn't just one thing that went wrong.
Not at all. When they traced it back meticulously, it was a whole confluence of factors, which really highlights the insane complexity of space engineering. For starters, the oxygen tank itself, Tank 2, had actually been damaged before it was even installed in the spacecraft.
Damaged how?
During a factory incident, it was accidentally dropped. Just a couple of inches, but enough. And this damage wasn't caught during the initial inspections.
Wow. Okay.
Then, later, during a routine pre-flight test on the launch pad, they call it a cryostir, they needed to empty the tank. To do this, they used internal heaters and stirring fans. Now, these components were designed for the spacecraft's 28-volt system, but the ground support equipment they hooked up used 65 volts, higher voltage.
Is that a problem?
A huge problem. It caused the thermostatic switches inside the tank. The little safety switches meant to cut off the heaters at about 80 degrees Fahrenheit to literally weld themselves shut.
So the heaters just stayed on?
Exactly. They stayed on continuously. For about 8 hours, these heaters slowly, relentlessly cooked the Teflon insulation around the wiring inside that tank, making it brittle and fragile.
So it was basically a ticking time bomb even before liftoff, sitting there on the launch pad.
Precisely. It was damaged goods before they even lit the candle. Then fast forward to 56 hours into the flight. They perform another routine cryostir, just standard procedure, to get an accurate reading of the tank's contents.
And that's when it happened.
That's when it happened. That procedure, stirring the super cold oxygen, likely caused the damaged, brittle wiring insulation to crack and arc. A spark.
In a pure oxygen environment.
Exactly. Instant ignition, a rapid pressure buildup, and then boom. Catastrophic explosion of Tank 2. It also damaged Tank 1 nearby.
And the crew obviously felt that.
Oh, yeah. They famously heard a distinct bang. Lovell described it as a dull thud and felt vibrations, a jolt that shook the whole spacecraft. Jim Lovell's initial, incredibly understated report back to Houston was, "Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here."
We've had a problem. Interesting.
Yeah. The film, of course, tweaked it slightly to the now iconic, "Houston, we have a problem," which, let's face it, has better dramatic punch and became just this permanent fixture in popular culture.
Absolutely.
But the urgency, the suddenness, the sheer severity of that moment that was absolutely real, it turned a mission that was, maybe getting a bit dull for the public into an immediate, desperate fight for survival.
Yeah, instantly.
Forced everyone involved, astronauts and ground control, to confront this terrifying existential threat hundreds of thousands of miles away.
And with the capsule crippled, Odyssey basically out of action, the entire mission immediately pivoted. Like you said, the goal wasn't landing on the moon anymore.
Forget the moon.
Yeah, forget the moon. It was simply about getting those 3 astronauts home alive. And this is where I think the quiet heroism of ground control really, really shines. You have key figures like flight director Gene Kranz.
And his white team. They were on shift when it happened.
Right. They became the central nervous system of this absolutely unparalleled rescue operation, a task that demanded, well, unprecedented levels of innovation, stuff they'd never even simulated.
And that raises such an important question, doesn't it? How do you solve problems that have literally never existed before? Problems you haven't trained for, with only the tools you have on hand, under unimaginable pressure, and with 3 lives hanging in the balance.
It's mind-boggling.
The sheer ingenuity shown by the engineers and scientists back in Houston was, well, it was nothing short of brilliant.
Yeah.
Just consider the challenge of power conservation alone. With the command module's power systems, the fuel cells, basically gone because the oxygen tanks fed them. They had to shut down nearly everything in Odyssey, turn it into a cold, dark, powerless shell, just to save the tiny bit of battery power left for re-entry.
So where did they get power? Life support?
Their only viable option, their lifeboat, was the lunar module, Aquarius. They had to power it up and move into it.
But Aquarius wasn't designed for that, was it?
Not even close. It was designed for only 2 astronauts.
Right.
To survive for maybe 35 hours on the lunar surface and get back to orbit. It wasn't meant for 3 people. Certainly not for the 4 days it would take to get back to Earth. It was a flimsy craft, really, built light for landing on the moon.
So they were asking it to do way more than it was built for.
Way more. But critically, it had its own independent life support systems, oxygen, power, water, albeit limited, and perhaps most importantly, its own descent engine.
Ah, the engine they would have used to land on the moon.
Exactly. That engine became vital for making the critical mid-course corrections they needed to get back on the right path to Earth after swinging around the moon. The ground teams had to meticulously calculate every single joule of power, every drop of water, every bit of oxygen, stretching those limited resources far, far beyond anything intended.
That really is the ultimate square peg, round hole problem, isn't it? And in one famous instance, quite literally.
Precisely. Perhaps the most celebrated example of their, like, on-the-fly innovation involved the carbon dioxide scrubbers.
Right, the air filters.
Yeah. As CO2 levels from the astronauts' breathing started rising rapidly inside the crammed Aquarius, they reached dangerous, potentially fatal levels. They needed to scrub the air.
Okay, so what was the problem? Didn't the LM have scrubbers?
It did, but not enough for 3 men for 4 days. They quickly used up the LM's canisters. They had spare canisters, plenty of them, but they were for the command module.
And they didn't fit.
Exactly. The command module used square lithium hydroxide canisters. The lunar module system had round openings for its scrubbers, a square peg and a round hole. Literally.
Unbelievable. So what did they do?
With the clock ticking, CO2 levels climbing, the ground teams had to invent an adapter, a workaround, using only materials they knew were available on board the spacecraft.
Things the astronauts actually had with them.
Right. Things like plastic bags, cardboard torn from flight plan covers, suit hoses, and, of course, the hero of the story, duct tape.
Good old duct tape.
Absolutely.
There's that iconic scene in the film, which is historically accurate in spirit, maybe slightly dramatized in presentation of engineers spreading all these random items on a table in mission control. Yeah, I remember that. Kranz dumps the stuff on the table.
Right. And they're feverishly working, collaborating to design and build this makeshift adapter. They literally built a prototype on the ground using the exact same materials the astronauts had access to.
And then just told them how to build it over the radio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Radioed up precise, step-by-step instructions. Imagine the crew, likely in the near dark, freezing cold, hands numb, trying to assemble this contraption based on voice commands from 200,000 miles away.
The pressure.
Immense. It was a race against time, with the astronauts' very breath depending entirely on the ingenuity of the folks back in Houston. And it worked. They built it. CO2 levels dropped. Incredible.
That scene in the film, it just perfectly visualizes the extreme pressure they were all under. It wasn't just about physical resources, was it? It was the mental strain, too.
Absolutely. And beyond the CO2, another huge challenge was navigation. With Odyssey's primary navigation systems useless without power, they faced the daunting task of manually navigating their way back to Earth.
How do you even do that?
Well, it meant relying on much more basic methods. Manual star sightings, using the ship's alignment telescope from within the lunar module. Craft, remember, not designed for precision deep space navigation.
Yep.
They had to manually control the engine burns.
Using the LM's landing engine?
Using the LM's descent engine, yeah. They needed incredible precision, aligning the spacecraft, firing the engine for just the right amount of time, all guided by calculations from the ground. They essentially used the Earth itself and the Sun as reference points. There was one famous burn where they had to use the Earth's terminator, the line between day and night, to align the spacecraft manually because debris from the explosion was confusing the star tracking.
Just unbelievable improvisation. And what about the conditions inside the spacecraft for the crew during all this? You mentioned cold.
It sounds like it went from bad to worse, really. The human toll on board was immense. With all the main systems shut down to save power, the temperature inside the modules plummeted.
How cold did it get?
It dropped to near freezing, just a few degrees above 0 Celsius. Condensation formed on all the walls, the consoles. Water droplets were floating around. It was damp, miserably cold.
And they couldn't just turn up the heat?
No spare power for heaters. They were wearing multiple layers, but they were constantly cold. On top of that, they endured severe water rationing to make the limited supply last.
Leading to dehydration.
Significant dehydration.
Yeah.
Which has all sorts of physical effects, headaches, fatigue, kidney issues. When they returned, they lost a lot of weight. And Fred Hayes actually developed a severe urinary tract infection because of the dehydration and cold.
Just surviving was an ordeal.
Absolutely. Sleep was almost impossible. Waste management became a serious, unpleasant challenge. They were perpetually cold, tired, increasingly unwell, pushing their physical and psychological limits constantly for days on end.
And through all this, Gene Kranz and the team, that failure is not an option mindset.
Exactly. That famous quote, failure is not an option. Even if he didn't shout those exact words at that precise dramatic moment in history, it absolutely embodied the team's unwavering commitment. The dedication.
It summed up the whole attitude.
It perfectly summed up the ethos. This became NASA's finest hour, really. A testament to intense collaboration, quick thinking, unwavering dedication under the most dire circumstances imaginable. Every single person, from the flight controllers to the engineers, scribbling calculations on chalkboards to the support teams, they worked tirelessly. Not just solving problems they knew, but inventing solutions, brand new solutions to problems no human had ever faced before.
This human drama, I mean, the incredible odds, the even more incredible solutions, it was just perfectly suited for the big screen, wasn't it?
Absolutely right for it. All that tension, the ingenuity, the stakes, it was just begging for cinematic treatment.
And that's exactly what Ron Howard delivered with his 1995 film Apollo 13, which I think many people consider a masterpiece.
That's one of his best, yeah.
Ron Howard's approach to making Apollo 13 was, well, it was really visionary for its time, I think. His main goal seems to have been achieving maximum authenticity, maximum realism. He seemed less interested in flashy Hollywood-style special effects, though there were some, and much more focused on procedural accuracy, getting the details right, and capturing the raw human drama of the situation. It was a massive undertaking.
It really was. And what Ron Howard truly understood and what he brought to life so powerfully working closely with the writers, William Broyles Jr. and Al Reinert, who adapted Jim Lovell's own book, Lost Moon.
Right, Lovell co-wrote the book the film was based on.
Yeah. What they understood was that the real drama wasn't in manufacturing some kind of external conflict or villain. The tension was inherent in the situation itself, in the sheer engineering challenges they faced, and the incredible collaborative problem-solving needed to overcome them.
So no need for a typical movie bad guy. The situation was the bad guy.
Exactly. This isn't your typical Hollywood blockbuster plot.
Yeah.
The film relies almost entirely on the inherent drama of people trying to solve seemingly impossible technical problems under extreme pressure. It's why some critics, kind of affectionately, call it competence porn.
Huh. I've heard that term. Explain that a bit.
Well, it's this idea that the tension and the satisfaction for the audience come from watching highly skilled people just doing their jobs exceptionally well, being incredibly competent, focused, and successful under immense pressure. It's a celebration of expertise, of intellect, of teamwork.
Instead of interpersonal drama or shootouts.
Precisely. It finds its drama in problem solving, not conflict creation. And people really responded to that.
And their commitment to accuracy. It sounds like they took it to a whole other level, way beyond what most filmmakers would even attempt.
It was unparalleled for the time. The involvement of actual NASA personnel and astronauts as technical consultants was absolutely crucial. Jim Lovell himself was on set practically every day.
Really? Lovell was there watching Tom Hanks play him?
Yeah, offering advice, insights, making sure things looked and sounded right. And it wasn't just Lovell. Other flight controllers, engineers, even astronauts like David Scott consulted. They weren't just checking the dialogue. They guided everything.
Like what specifically?
Well, the specific procedures the astronauts would follow in the cockpit, the correct terminology, even the subtle hand gestures used by the flight controllers in mission control, down to the types of pens they might have used, the coffee cups. Tiny details that add up to authenticity.
That's incredible dedication.
It really is. The research behind the sets and props was just as rigorous. Those command module and lunar module sets, built to exact NASA specifications, every switch, every dial, every label, meticulously placed based on the real blueprints.
Must have been cramped to film.
Incredibly cramped, which added to the realism. And the mission control set. Wow. That wasn't just a facade. It was built to mimic the real Mission Operations Control Room MOCR-2 down to the smallest detail.
With working consoles.
Yes. Period-accurate computers, working consoles displaying data relevant to the scenes. It created this incredibly immersive environment that helped the actors truly feel like they were there back in 1970. This level of authenticity, it made the film feel less like a recreation and more like a genuine homage, a tribute to the real event and the people involved.
But how did they actually film the zero gravity and capture the feeling of being inside those tiny spacecraft without losing that incredible realism? Because the zero-G scenes, I mean, they're what really blew everyone away back in '95.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where the film really broke new ground, wasn't it, technically speaking?
Absolutely. It pushed the boundaries of cinematic innovation for its time. The realism in Apollo 13 wasn't just about the meticulous set design. It was about these groundbreaking filming techniques, especially for those iconic zero-gravity scenes.
So not wires or early CGI.
Very little CGI for the zero-G itself. What really stands out is their unprecedented commitment to using practical effects. They famously used a modified KC-135 cargo plane nicknamed the Vomit Comet by NASA.
Ah, yes, the Vomit Comet. The stories from the cast about filming on that thing are legendary. I heard it was incredibly demanding.
They are legendary and, yes, incredibly demanding. The way it works is the plane flies these parabolic arcs. It climbs sharply, then dives in a precise curve.
Creating weightlessness at the top of the arc.
Exactly. For about 25 seconds per parabola, everything inside experiences actual weightlessness. True zero-G.
Only 25 seconds at a time. How did they film anything complex?
That was the immense challenge. Imagine trying to get actors into position, deliver lines, move cumbersome cameras and lighting equipment, all within that tiny 25-second window, over and over again. They had to be incredibly efficient.
How many parabolas did they end up doing?
They filmed over 600 parabolas in total, which meant the actors and crew endured literally hours of actual weightlessness, but interspersed with the subsequent crushing 2G pull-out force at the bottom of each dive. And, of course, the inevitable nausea.
Hence the nickname.
Hence the nickname. Tom Hanks reportedly got violently sick several times. Yeah. Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon. They all talked about how physically grueling it was. It was an absolutely unprecedented commitment for a major Hollywood film at the time.
But it paid off on screen.
Massively. Yeah. It resulted in unparalleled realism. The actors weren't just pretending to float. They were floating. They experienced, a tiny fraction of what the real astronauts endured in terms of disorientation and physical challenge, and they deeply informed their performances. You can see it.
That's incredible dedication. Just amazing. And beyond the Vomit Comet, what other technical aspects really stood out in the filmmaking?
Well, beyond the KC-135, the set design itself, as we mentioned, was a marvel of authenticity. Those meticulously recreated interiors of the command module and lunar module, building them to spec, presented real challenges for camera placement and just moving the crew around within such incredibly cramped spaces.
Made it feel real, though, claustrophobic.
Exactly. And the mission control set, again, not just a facade, it was this full-scale working recreation. They had something like 46 functioning consoles, 16 monitors, all powered by, I think, around 750 computers running period-appropriate displays. It allowed the actors playing the ground crew to really feel the environment, react authentically to the data coming up on screen.
Immersive for them, too.
Totally. And the sound design played a crucial role as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just dialogue. Think about the soundscape, that jarring, concussive thump of the oxygen tank explosion that just reverberates through the spacecraft.
Yeah, you feel that.
Or later, the eerie, muffled silence when they power down Odyssey and the spacecraft goes cold and dark. Every auditory detail, the creaks of the hull, the muffled voices over the comms, the mechanical hum of the life support system struggling at all, added to the immersive experience. It puts you right there with them.
And they used miniatures, too, right? Not just CGI.
Yes, and that was a very smart choice by Ron Howard. They relied heavily on incredibly detailed miniatures for the exterior shots of the spacecraft, the launch sequence, the docking, and practical effects over excessive CGI, which was still, developing in the mid-90s.
Keeps it from looking dated now.
Exactly. It helped maintain a kind of timeless feel for the film and prevented it from looking jarringly dated as CGI technology rapidly advanced. It kept the focus squarely on the human drama, not the digital effects.
So, with all this incredible dedication to technical accuracy, the practical effects, the realistic sets, how did the performances stack up? Because, let's be honest, most people watching knew how the story ends.
Right. The outcome wasn't a secret.
Yet, watching the film, you were still completely on the edge of your seat. What made the acting so compelling?
That's a really powerful point, isn't it?
Yeah.
How great performances can elevate even a well-known story, make it feel suspenseful and immediate all over again. And the central performances absolutely anchored Apollo 13. They were crucial to its success.
Tom Hanks as Lovell, obviously.
Tom Hanks as Commander Jim Lovell. I mean, it's a truly remarkable performance. He embodies that stoic, resourceful commander perfectly. He conveys the leadership, the quiet determination, the immense stress, but without ever resorting to big, showy theatrics.
Yeah, it's very internal.
Very internal. You see his mind working, calculating. You see his resolve strengthening even as things get worse. You feel the weight of his crew's lives on his shoulders, all conveyed through these really subtle shifts in his expression, his posture, his voice. It's masterful.
And Ed Harris as flight director, Gene Kranz, just iconic. His presence is magnetic every time he's on screen.
Absolutely iconic. Ed Harris delivers this incredibly intense, commanding performance as the resolute flight director. He just is Gene Kranz in that white vest. He perfectly embodies that failure is not an option mentality.
Even if the line itself was a movie invention?
Right. Even if the line itself was an embellishment for the film, Harris makes you believe Kranz lived and breathed that ethos. It perfectly encapsulated Kranz's unshakable resolve and the unwavering focus of his entire team. That white vest became this powerful visual symbol of commitment, professionalism, control under pressure.
And Gary Sinise as Ken Mattingly, the guy who got bumped from the flight.
Gary Sinise' performance as Ken Mattingly is really compelling, too, because he portrays not just Mattingly's initial frustration and disappointment at being grounded.
Which must have been immense.
Well, devastating. But Cine shows Mattingly channeling that into this intense dedication to his team, even from the sidelines back on Earth. He becomes this quiet hero in the simulator, meticulously working out the crucial power-up sequence for the command module.
Figuring out how to turn Odyssey back on for re-entry with minimal power.
Exactly. Figure out the precise timing and the exact order in which to bring all those frozen dormant systems back online, using only the tiny amount of battery power they had left. It was a task that literally meant the difference between burning up on re-entry or surviving. Cine's conveys that focus, that pressure, brilliantly.
And what about the other two crew members up there with Lovell, Jack Swigert and Fred Hayes? How did their performances contribute?
Kevin Bacon as Jack Swigert, the late replacement pilot, and Bill Paxton as Fred Hayes, the lunar module pilot. They just masterfully showcase the raw human reactions to the crisis unfolding around them.
The fear, the frustration.
All of it. You see their initial shock and confusion, which then kind of morphs into this growing resilience, but also moments of real frustration, impatience, even flashes of dark gallows humor as they face the possibility of not making it back.
Makes it feel very real.
Totally. They perfectly capture the human element of being trapped together in this freezing, dying spacecraft, having to be incredibly resourceful just to survive day to day. They convey the physical and psychological toll, the fatigue, the shivering cold, the arguments born of stress, the sheer isolation. It grounds the technical drama.
And the families back home, Kathleen Quinlan as Marilyn Lovell.
Yes, and when you zoom out, the strength of the entire ensemble cast really can't be overstated. Kathleen Quinlan as Marilyn Lovell provides such a vital emotional anchor connecting us to the families on Earth. Her performance powerfully depicts the immense stress, the agonizing uncertainty, the helpless anxiety they faced as they just waited for news, glued to the television and the NASA squawk box.
Humanizes the crisis beyond the control room in the capsule.
Exactly. It reminds you of the stakes for everyone involved. Those specific moments of tension and relief, like the crew huddling together, shivering in the freezing LM, or the collective gasp in the Lovell household and in mission control as they wait for radio contact during re-entry blackout. They're powerfully conveyed by all the actors.
Yeah.
It makes the known outcome feel suspenseful and deeply, deeply emotional every time you watch it.
Yeah.
The film is just a masterclass in ensemble acting. Every character, no matter how seemingly small their role, contributes to this overwhelming sense of realism and gripping human drama.
It's true. The film absolutely captured the suspense of the true story, even for those of us who knew how it ended. And like you said, it wasn't just a hit movie. It really left a lasting mark on how we view space exploration, problem solving, both in cinema and maybe even in real-world applications.
Definitely had a lasting impact.
Apollo 13 was just an undeniable triumph, wasn't it? Both critically and at the box office. When it came out in 1995, it got overwhelmingly positive reviews pretty much across the board.
Reviews, yeah.
And it performed incredibly well financially, made over $355 million worldwide, which was huge back then. What's particularly insightful, I think, about its reception was how reviewers reacted to its unique brand of suspense, especially given that, the historical outcome was widely known. Nobody was wondering if they'd make it back.
Right. That's the fascinating part. Critics like the late Roger Ebert, for example, despite knowing the outcome, praised the film's absolutely gripping suspense. He talked about how it celebrated human ingenuity under pressure. He noted how the film managed to take a familiar story and make it utterly compelling, edge-of-your-seat viewing.
Yeah, I remember reading reviews like that.
Variety called it a compelling, intelligent, and deeply human drama. That really sums it up. It highlighted the film's ability to connect with audiences on both an intellectual level, appreciating the problem-solving, and a deeply emotional level.
It made science and engineering exciting for a mass audience.
It really did.
Yeah.
The film was widely lauded for that ability, making complex science and meticulous engineering not just accessible, but genuinely thrilling. It demonstrated that technical problem-solving, when detailed and executed this expertly on screen, could be just as dramatic, if not more so, than, say, traditional action sequences or fabricated conflicts.
It certainly stood out in that summer of 1995, which I remember being full of other big effects-driven blockbusters.
It truly did. Apollo 13 felt like such a refreshing change of pace, a contrast to movies that often prioritize spectacle, explosions, maybe CGI monsters, over substance and character.
Yeah.
It proved that audiences were actually hungry for intelligent, well-crafted stories that celebrated human competence, resilience, teamwork. It really resonated.
And the awards recognition followed, right?
Oh, yeah. It received 9 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, which was huge. It ultimately won 2 well-deserved Oscars. Best film editing, which makes sense given how they built the tension, and best sound, which was crucial for that immersive experience we talked about. Winning those really cemented its place as a significant achievement in filmmaking. It proved that historical accuracy and intense human drama, when combined so skillfully, can be incredibly powerful and successful.
So the film wasn't just a momentary hit. It clearly left this lasting mark on how we view space exploration, maybe even how we think about problem solving in general. What were its enduring themes, its cultural significance that still resonate today?
That's a great question because Apollo 13 continues to be studied, admired, and referenced for its really powerful themes and its lasting cultural influence. I think one of the most prominent takeaways is how the film serves as this incredible testament to teamwork and collaboration.
The ground crew, especially.
Exactly. It's often cited as depicting NASA's finest hour, not just for the bravery of the astronauts, but for the collective intelligence and the intense cross-disciplinary problem-solving demonstrated by literally thousands of engineers and scientists working together on the ground.
Everyone focused on one goal.
Completely. It powerfully underscores the idea that truly complex, maybe even existential problems require diverse minds, different areas of expertise, all working together seamlessly under immense pressure, sharing knowledge, challenging assumptions, innovating constantly on the fly.
That tiger team approach they talk about.
Precisely. That tiger team approach, where you bring experts together from different fields to tackle an urgent, specific problem, became a real hallmark of NASA's response during Apollo 13. And it's a model that's been emulated in countless other fields since then, in business, medicine, crisis management.
It really is that quintessential American ingenuity story, too, isn't it? That whole can-do spirit.
Oh, absolutely. The film definitely celebrated that American can-do spirit, that remarkable ability to innovate, to find solutions under the most extreme adversity imaginable. It reinforced a very positive image of American scientific and engineering prowess, especially at a time, perhaps, when such stories felt particularly needed or resonant. It showcased a nation, or at least an organization, that could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles through intellect, collaboration, and just sheer grit.
And it wasn't just about the tech, was it?
Not at all, and that's key. While the film showcased incredible high-tech machinery, the Saturn V rocket, the spacecraft themselves, it consistently emphasized the human element as the decisive factor.
People saved the mission, not machines.
Exactly. The quick thinking, the courage under fire, the unwavering perseverance of both the astronauts enduring the ordeal and the ground control team solving the puzzles. They were presented as the ultimate saviors. It demonstrated powerfully that technology, no matter how advanced, is only as good as the human minds operating it, maintaining it, and crucially, fixing it when it breaks.
When the advanced systems failed, it was back to basics.
Back to basics, yeah. Back to manual calculations, slide rules in some cases, ingenuity, and fundamental engineering principles. Human skills save the day, reminding us of the enduring importance of basic competence, training, and that ability to think outside the box.
You mentioned competence porn earlier, and this film is so often held up as the textbook example of that concept. Why do you think that particular aspect, watching people be good at their jobs, resonated so deeply with audiences?
It's a really fascinating question, the appeal of competence porn. I think in Apollo 13, its power lies in the deep, almost cathartic satisfaction we get from watching people be incredibly good at what they do, meticulously, calmly, systematically solving one seemingly insurmountable problem after another.
Instead of creating more problems through conflict.
Right. Rather than generating drama through interpersonal conflict or mistakes, the drama comes from the problem itself and the focused effort to solve it. In a world that often feels chaotic, uncertain, maybe even incompetent at times, seeing experts calmly and methodically tackle a genuine life or death crisis provides this powerful sense of order, control, and reassurance.
Like, okay, maybe things can be solved.
Exactly. There's maybe a profound human need to believe that when things go catastrophically wrong, there are capable, dedicated individuals ready to step up, use their skills, collaborate, and find solutions. It celebrates a different kind of heroism, one rooted in intellect, training, discipline, and teamwork, rather than just physical might or lone wolf action often seen in movies.
It taps into our admiration for mastery.
Mastery, exactly.
Yeah.
And the quiet satisfaction of a problem just being well solved through sheer brain power and effort. It's deeply appealing.
And it certainly shaped how the public remembered or even learned about the mission itself.
Oh, crucially, the film significantly shaped public perception and memory of the Apollo 13 mission. For many, many people, especially those born after 1970, the movie became their primary source of information about the event.
So its accuracy was really important.
Incredibly important. And while there were minor dramatizations for cinematic effect, like condensing timelines or compositing characters slightly.
Or the exact phrasing of "the failure is not an option" line.
Right. Like Gene Kranz's famous line. While the exact quote was an embellishment crafted for the film, his actual sentiment was expressed slightly differently, more like, "We have never lost an American in space. We're not going to lose one now. Failure is not an option," was the spirit he conveyed. Later, the film captured the spirit and the intense ethos of mission control perfectly.
Yeah, it felt true.
It felt true. And that scene you mentioned earlier where Krantz challenges his team to find a way to get a square peg in a round hole with only the stuff available in the spacecraft. It's just such a perfect, enduring visual metaphor for the entire crisis. It encapsulates the constraints, the stakes, and the brilliant, unconventional, hands-on thinking required to overcome it. It's a powerful and lasting image of ingenuity under pressure.
Absolutely. So after this really fascinating deep dive into Apollo 13, both the reality and the film, what are the main things you think we, or you, the listener, can take away from this remarkable story?
Well, we've journeyed through the truly harrowing real-life events of the Apollo 13 mission. We've witnessed Ron Howard's masterful, incredibly respectful recreation of that crisis on screen. We've explored the innovative, often grueling filmmaking techniques that brought the mission's intensity right into the cinema. And we've reflected on its powerful, enduring themes of ingenuity, resilience, and perhaps above all, teamwork.
Yeah, that teamwork aspect is huge.
It really is. The story of Apollo 13, both the history and the film, I think it just reminds us that even when faced with catastrophic, unexpected failure, human intellect, intense collaboration, and sheer unyielding grit can turn what looks like impending disaster into, well, a triumphant return, a successful failure.
A testament to problem solving under pressure.
Exactly. It's a powerful narrative about the beauty of competence, the absolute necessity of adaptability, and what humans can achieve when they work together towards a common goal, especially when lives are on the line.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Consider how the lessons from Apollo 13 lessons about anticipating the unexpected, about fostering diverse expertise and actually listening to it, about maintaining calm focus under immense pressure, and about collaborating fiercely, leaving egos at the door, how those lessons extend far beyond space travel.
They apply everywhere.
Right. What seemingly impossible square peg in a round hole problem might you be facing right now? Maybe in your work, in your community, perhaps even in your personal life. What collaborative solutions, what Tiger Team insights might be waiting just outside your immediate view if you approach the problem with that same spirit of ingenuity and shared purpose? It raises that important question. When the stakes are highest for you, where do you look for ingenuity?
A great question to ponder.
Something to think about until our next deep dive.
If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give it a like, and check out the next episode. We've got plenty more movie magic to dive into. Talk to you soon.